Let's talk facts here. There was a lot of discussion about New York City. There is no discussion about gun violence in New York City without discussing the iron pipeline that is Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and honorary mention to Ohio, where 70% of likely illegal trafficked guns found in New York City come from. There's no discussion about gun violence in Chicago without talking about Indiana. Because the violence and the mothers that we have to comfort are losing children due to the guns and the carnage and the lawlessness unleashed by those states. Not only is it not normal, it is internationally embarrassing and delegitimizing to the United States. Because
AOC comes up talking about the iron pipeline, claiming 70% of illegally trafficked guns in NYC come from states like Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Sounds dramatic, but let's actually think about this. Those are legal purchases being illegally trafficked. So the problem is the criminal networks, not the states legally selling firearms to law-abiding citizens. You don't blame the car dealership in Georgia because someone drove a stolen car into New York City. And here's what really kills her argument. New York and Chicago have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. If gun control worked, those cities should be the safest in America. They're not. Criminals don't follow laws. That's literally what makes them criminals.
Because for all the billions and trillions that this body authorizes in the name of national security, we can't even keep our kids safe from their schools being turned into a war zone.
So by this legislation, my colleagues are putting forth my understanding of the letter of that law, which I 1,000% oppose, as would our founding fathers. I'm going to bring us back in time to World War II. America's population, 140 million. 15 million American men came home from World War II with deep scars and significant skills. They bore the invisible wounds of war. And there was weapons everywhere. We'll talk about mental challenge. My father was one of those men who was a Navy pilot in World War II. He came back from the war and built his family. I'm the seventh of his 8 children. I was born in 1961. We had guns everywhere. There was virtually no regulation. Any child in the 50s could buy a weapon from any seller if daddy sent them with the money. We didn't have mass shootings. It wasn't until 1968 in America that serial numbers were even required on weapons sold in this country. You order weapons through the Sears catalog by the mail. In the 70s, I attended a high school, large rural school. Virtually every vehicle in the parking lot was a pickup truck, and almost every one had a rifle or a shotgun on the back glass and a pistol under the seat. And we didn't have school shootings. 1979, I began college. One of the jobs I had to work my way through college was as a carpenter. We restored historical buildings. We had to determine in the process of that work what was the original cuts of these homes, residential homes built 75, 85, 100 years ago. You could tell by the saw cut if it was a mechanical cut, an electric cut, or a hand cut. By such observations, we knew exactly how that house was originally built. And to my amazement as a young man, beginning college in Louisiana, working, to my amazement, you know what I discovered, Madam Chair? You know what these houses did not have that were built 100 years ago in cities in America? You know what they did not have, Commissioner? Locks. Locks. Now I ask you all, what happened to that country, man? A country where homes were built in cities with no locks. A country where guns were everywhere and virtually not regulated at all. where millions of Americans, 14 million Americans came back. It's 11% of the population at the time after World War II, with incredible skills of war and weapons of war, as you called them, everywhere. But we didn't have mass shootings. And here we sit today, where an entire once proud Democratic Party is presenting unbelievably unconstitutional laws.
Now, this is where it gets good. This veteran steps up and delivers something rare in Washington: plain, documented historical truth. 15 million men came home from World War II. Men who'd seen real combat, real weapons everywhere. You could order firearms through the Sears catalog by mail. Children could walk into stores and buy rifles. Serial numbers weren't even required until 1968. And we didn't have mass shootings. Let that sink in. If guns caused mass shootings, post-World War II America should have been the most violent period in our history. Instead, we had the greatest economic expansion ever, communities being built, families being raised. The guns didn't change. The people changed. The culture changed. That is the conversation we need to be having. The veteran talks about his high school in the 1970s. Nearly every pickup truck had a rifle in the back window and a pistol under the seat. Hundreds of teenagers with firearms on school grounds daily. School shootings? Zero. Fast forward today, metal detectors, active shooter drills, locked doors, resource officers, and we still have tragedies. So what changed? The guns are the same. What changed is the breakdown of family, community, faith, and personal responsibility. Those kids in the 70s had fathers at home, churches on Sunday, and communities that held them accountable. That social fabric was powerful. We've systematically dismantled every bit of it, and then act surprised at the results. This is the most powerful part. The veteran talks about restoring historical homes as a young carpenter. Houses built 75 to 100 years ago in American cities. And he discovers something stunning. Those homes had no locks. City homes in America didn't need locks because neighbors trusted each other. There was enough shared moral code and community accountability that you could leave your door open. Can you imagine that in most American cities today? Of course not. And remember, guns were everywhere back then, far less regulated than today. Yet doors stayed unlocked. Those unlocked doors tell you everything about what actually changed in America. It wasn't the guns. It was the culture, the families, the values, the communities. I'm not just here to criticize. Here's what we should actually be talking about. Fatherlessness. The overwhelming majority of mass shooters come from broken homes. We need policies that support fathers staying in the home, not systems that incentivize them leaving. Isolation. Young men today are more isolated than ever in human history. Purposeless. Isolated young men are a powder keg. Rebuild community institutions. Harden our schools now. We protect banks, politicians, and sports arenas with armed security, but leave children in gun-free zones with a sign on the door. Put resource officers in every school. Make schools a hard target. These are real solutions that address root causes, without stripping law-abiding Americans of their constitutional rights. That veteran reminded America of who we are and who we used to be. The guns aren't new. Something else changed. Until we're honest enough to have that hard conversation about family, faith, culture, and personal responsibility, we'll keep arguing about pieces of metal while the real disease goes untreated. America doesn't have a gun problem. America has a soul problem. And you cannot legislate your way out of a soul problem. Share this video, drop your thoughts below, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.